Imagine being just a normal dude 1 second, but then waking up with cheat powers that turn you into the most feared martial artist in an entirely new world. The story kicked off when the ancient god of war awakened from his slumber, and somehow a 28-year-old man named Fang Ping was suddenly hurled 10 years back in time, right into a parallel universe where martial arts wasn't just a hobby, but the very foundation of society. When Fang Ping opened his eyes, he found himself floating midair like some confused ghost, smack in the middle of a full-blown deathmatch. Two terrifying Grandmaster-level martial artists, Tai and Lai, were locked in a brutal showdown. Tai, glowing with a menacing purple aura, launched a devastating martial technique that hurled Lai straight into a mountainside. He started celebrating, clearly thinking the match was over, but he celebrated too soon. Lai rose from the rubble, looking barely scratched, and decided to teach Tai the meaning of overconfidence. He activated a hidden technique called the Heavenly Horse Master Fist, and with one explosive punch, obliterated Tai into oblivion. The very next second, Fang Ping found himself jolted awake, drenched in sweat and seated at his classroom desk as if everything had just been a crazy hallucination. He blinked in confusion, still trying to make sense of what just happened. The teacher casually announced that registration for the martial arts exam would start the next day, then walked out like it was just another Tuesday. Fang stared at his classmates Yang Jian and Chen Fan, his expression stuck somewhere between lost and shocked. The two exchanged glances and asked what he was gawking at, but before he could respond, another student burst into the room holding up a phone. On screen, a third-rank martial artist named Li Dali was busy showing off, claiming he was about to risk his life entering an 8th-grade battle zone. He told viewers to remember his name in case he died, just so they could witness his bravery. As the video played, Fang's jaw nearly dropped. The battlefield in the clip was identical to the place where he just watched the two grandmasters brawl. Still clueless and shaken, Fang Ping dashed to the nearest internet cafe like a man on a mission. He spent hours digging through the web, eventually uncovering the shocking truth. He had landed in a parallel world where martial artists weren't just celebrities, they were gods among men. And apparently, the martial arts exam wasn't some random test. It was a life-altering moment that could define a person's future. When he learned that the registration fee was nearly 10,000 yuan and the required vitality pills cost around 30,000, his eyes almost popped out of his head. As he wandered out of the cafe, overwhelmed and slightly broke, he passed by a wanted poster featuring a second-ranked martial artist. It gave him an idea, but before he could get sidetracked, he made his way to Jinggu Garden, his old home. Nostalgia washed over him as he stood in front of the place, memories hitting him like waves. Almost instantly, his younger sister rushed at him, demanding repayment for the money he'd borrowed. Fang responded in the only way a big brother would, by pinching her cheek. She squealed and ran off to snitch to their mom. Just then, their father entered, and Fang smiled at the familiar, comforting sight of his family under one roof again. Over dinner, Fang told his father he wanted to take the martial arts exam. The table went quiet. Without a word, his dad got up and returned with an envelope full of money. He handed it over with a serious look and reminded Fang that this path wasn't just some casual choice. It was a huge commitment. Later that night, Fang quietly listened to his parents talking while they washed the dishes. His mom whispered that they had only 50,000 yuan in total savings. His father calmly replied that he would borrow some blood-boosting pills from the factory. No way was he letting money hold back his son's future. The next day at school, chaos broke out when Fang's friends discovered he had actually registered for the exam. They stared at him like he'd lost his mind, calling it total garbage. But before the gossip could explode further, their teacher strolled in with surprising news. Wan Jin Yang, a former student who had become a full-fledged martial artist, was coming back to visit. The classroom buzzed with excitement. The teacher then asked Fang, along with Wu and Yang, to go to the station and pick up their legendary senior. Later that evening, Fang lay sprawled on his bed, scrolling through the admission requirements for the martial arts exam. Just as he was starting to overthink, a foul-smelling drop of water landed on his face. He looked up in disgust. The bathroom upstairs was leaking again. Before he could complain, his mother called out, asking him to check the vitality pills his father had brought home. Curious, he got up and inspected them. The moment he held the first pill, a strange pulse surged through him. Suddenly, the world around him vanished, and he was transported to a bizarre space where a panel screen floated in front of him, displaying something called martial art value. In the blink of an eye, he snapped back to reality, heart pounding. Unsure if it was just a hallucination, he grabbed the second pill, and bam! He was yanked back into that same mysterious realm. This time, it was clear. It wasn't a dream. Something just triggered by the blood key pills. Fang looked down and realized he was standing on top of a giant statue, facing an interface he didn't understand. After Fang touched the second pill, the martial art value on the screen suddenly doubled. Thinking it might just be indicating how much the pill was worth, he casually tapped the second line, which displayed something about vital energy. The moment he did, a bolt of searing pain shot through his body. His martial art value started crashing fast, plummeting like a stock market crash, while his vital energy barely nudged up by 0.1. Somewhere far off, that wild fluctuation in chi and blood didn't go unnoticed. A notorious fugitive currently holding a woman hostage suddenly paused. He could sense something abnormal had just occurred. At the same time, Senior Wang got the call. The criminal had entered Kangshan. If he escaped the city, he'd be impossible to track. Annoyed, Wang scolded the informant for alerting the fugitive too early and demanded 500,000 martial art points as compensation for the blown lead. Back in Fang's room, his muscles were cramping like crazy. He glanced at his screen in disbelief. His points had dropped all the way to 30,000, and all that suffering had only boosted his energy by a measly 0.1. At that rate, he'd need thousands of pills just to level up. He screamed in frustration, but right then, his sister barged in and shouted at him for yelling like a madman. Despite the pain and confusion, Fang was impressed. The pill hadn't disappeared after use, which meant he could tap into that mysterious statue world again. The next morning, Fang joined his classmates to greet their returning senior at the station. When Senior Wang showed up, one of the students asked why he hadn't exited through the main gate. Wang quickly brushed it off, claiming he had just arrived ahead of schedule while secretly hiding the fact that he was tailing the fugitive. As Fang introduced himself, Wang felt an odd surge of energy ripple through his body. A loudmouth in a yellow hoodie started bragging that his strength was equal to Fang's. Fang quickly played it cool and offered a casual excuse. Though Wang was supposed to take the bus, he insisted on walking back with them. Once they returned to school, Wang delivered an epic motivational speech that left the crowd buzzing. Before leaving at sunset, he gave his contact number to the juniors who had picked him up, telling them to call him if they ever found themselves in serious trouble. As Wang disappeared down the road, Fang suddenly remembered his own trouble, the upstairs ceiling leak. He rushed back home and went straight to his neighbor's door. No one answered, but just as he was about to leave, he heard glass shattering inside. He called out for Aunt Chen, who usually lived there, but instead of her, a man opened the door. The stranger calmly explained that Aunt Chen had rented the apartment to him temporarily. Fang mentioned the leak coming from the bathroom above and assumed the man might know what was going on. The man gave him a long look, clearly sizing him up, trying to figure out if this kid knew who he really was. Then, trying to act friendly, the man invited him in. As Fang walked past the bathroom, he noticed something. There was a bloody bandage tossed on the floor. His instincts kicked in. He realized immediately this was no ordinary tenant. He had just stumbled into the lair of the wanted criminal. The man tried to stay casual. He offered to boil water and told Fang to relax. Then, smoothly, he steered the conversation to bounties. Fang let something slip, just enough for the criminal to realize he'd been recognized. Before things turned violent, Fang secretly typed a message to Senior Wang, asking for urgent help. Just as the message sent, Wang called back. Fang picked up, panicked, but before he could speak, the criminal smashed him into the wall. Fang went flying, barely able to get back on his feet. The fugitive decided it was time to disappear for good. He lunged for Fang, planning to end him right there and erase all traces. But then something kicked in. Fang, using the system, traded his remaining points and restored his energy just in time. He dodged a few strikes, hoping to turn the fight around. It worked, for about 2 seconds. As the fugitive raised his hand to finish him off with one final technique, a blur crashed through the room. Senior Wang had arrived. With explosive force, Wang pummeled the criminal into unconsciousness before he could react. After checking on Fang, Wang explained the criminal's background. Fang suddenly remembered Aunt Chen and rushed to find her. Luckily, she was safe. Once the fugitive, revealed to be named Huan Bin, was handed over to the authorities, Wang gave Fang a solid thumbs up for surviving the encounter. Fang knew it wasn't just grit that saved him, it was the system. But he decided to keep that little secret to himself. Wang handed him a bundle of the fugitive's belongings, telling him it might help with his martial arts breakthrough. Fang asked what they were, and Wang explained that the blood key pills increase the upper limit of qi energy, while the qi and blood elixirs helped push a person to the next tier. He also shared how each tier broke down into 4 smaller stages and continued educating Fang on all the essentials he'd need going forward. Before the lesson could end, Fang's sister showed up, fuming about how he forgot to pick her up from school. But the moment she laid eyes on Wang, her whole mood changed. She squealed, ran straight at him, and shamelessly begged for an autograph. After returning to his room, Fang sat down to examine the items Wang had given him. But before he could even fully open the pouch, he got sucked right back into the strange system world. This time, his martial arts value had shot past 2 million, which explained why his reflexes and senses had become sharper than ever. Just then, the system began glowing, clearly undergoing some kind of upgrade. With a single thought about boosting his vitality, a jolt of pain hit him like lightning. But along with the pain came power. Strength now flowed into him as effortlessly as if he'd just gone full Super Saiyan. The next day at school, the rich kid couldn't stop talking about how exhausting it was just walking a few steps to the Vitality Center. He bragged that his parents even bought him a home scanner to check his value without leaving the house. Not satisfied with just talking, he dragged Fang back to his mansion, curious if what Senior Wang had said about Fang was actually true. Once there, the rich kid insisted Fang fire up his emotions and try hitting his peak. Fang gave it a go, and the value hit 113. The rich kid stood there stunned. But that wasn't the end of it. Fang ended up spending the entire night at his house, just trying to convince the guy that the numbers were legit and not some kind of trick. Eventually, test day rolled around. At the exam center, the examiner delivered the usual hype speech, reminding everyone that martial artists were the backbone of the nation's future. He laid out the rules and stated the passing mark. Anyone scoring above 112 was in. With that, the test began. Students started shouting with all their might, trying to push their values up. Once the room quieted down, only one voice kept howling like a lunatic: Fangs. He refused to stop, screaming like a Dragon Ball hero on his last power-up. The testing capsule lit up in a blazing red. The examiner stared in disbelief as the number on the screen shot up to 149, the exact same number Senior Wang had scored the year before. Even the rich kid, who had been full of doubts the night before, stood speechless. Fang had trolled him the entire evening with a straight face. After clearing the test, Fang called up Wang to ask about university options. His senior told him to meet at the sports arena the next day at 2 p.m. sharp. That night, when Fang's dad saw the test results, he got all emotional and even teared up, proud of how far his son had come. At the arena, Wang greeted Fang with a warm congratulations and introduced him to his master's daughter, Nini. He told her to wait nearby for a bit, and as she walked off, Wang's mind drifted to the past. He remembered his master, Zhang Qingmin, who once willingly walked into a closing portal with no guarantee of return, just to save humanity. Before leaving to rescue a man named Shen Quan, the master had entrusted Wang with the leadership of the Martial Arts Society. Trying one last desperate trick to make him stay, Wang had even joked about marrying off his daughter, only for Master Zhang to call him shameless and threaten to break his legs, reminding him that the girl was still a child. Snapping back to reality, Wang suddenly launched a surprise punch at Fang, teasing him and asking if he was satisfied with that flimsy body. Then, he got serious again and laid out the top university choices. He recommended 4 schools that provided resources and support for breakthroughs, all free of charge. Fang thought it over carefully and decided to choose the second school, Mo University. Before long, it was time to say goodbye. He hugged his family, and his little sister pouted like a crybaby, demanding he message her the moment he found a bride. As the train began to pull away, she ran after it, waving, clearly not ready to see him go. Elsewhere, Wang walked side by side with his master's daughter, quietly vowing to grow stronger. Strong enough to protect Fang one day, if it ever came to that. Meanwhile, Fang arrived at Mo University, ready for anything, until he saw the entrance guard. The guy looked like a human shark, complete with razor teeth and a massive greatsword. Without missing a beat, the guard warned Fang not to get cocky just because he'd made it in. Sizing him up, the blue-haired man tried to guess Fang's stage, but Fang just laughed it off and casually asked if he was his senior. The man introduced himself as Qin Fangking, but the moment Fang mentioned he was from Nanjing, Qin's expression darkened. Wang's face flashed through his memory, and with a clenched jaw, Qin told Fang to stop being so familiar and show proper respect to his seniors. As Qin walked off carrying a giant sack full of resources, he muttered curses under his breath and swore to one day surpass both Guiying and Nanjing universities. Later, at the admissions reception, Fang handed his paperwork to the receptionist. She scanned it and was surprised to see that he had already achieved second-rank bone tempering. But when she ran a quick check, she found something even more shocking. He had reached 3rd rank in just a month, a feat only one second-year student had ever accomplished before. The entire room fell silent. The receptionist's professional mask cracked slightly as she scrambled to arrange the proper protocol. She even summoned his senior, Zhou Yun, to personally escort him from there. After registering, Fang was led by the receptionist to Area 1, where she explained that the scenic beauty wasn't just for aesthetics. It was meant to keep students sane when the relentless training began to crush their souls. As they passed through the lush gardens and peaceful walkways, Fang couldn't help but wonder if he'd enrolled in a martial arts academy or a high-end vacation resort. Once inside the dorms, Fang headed to his assigned room and was taken aback by how massive the space was. It was like getting a presidential suite all to himself. Just as he started unpacking, a tall, handsome blonde from across the hall strolled in without knocking. He plopped down on Fang's sofa like he owned the place and introduced himself as Fu Chengbing. With a smile too smooth to trust, Fu asked where Fang was from. But the moment Fang mentioned Nanjing, Fu's friendly tone evaporated. Fu narrowed his eyes and asked if Fang knew someone named Wang. Without waiting for a response, he launched into a dramatic monologue about how Wang had been making absurd breakthroughs and had already crushed the strongest fighters from 8 other universities. Fang, unfazed, calmly sipped his cold drink. But when Fu noticed the 3rd rank bone tempering, he paused. Suddenly, his tone softened. Maybe, just maybe, the gap between them wasn't that wide after all. Trying to keep things chill, Fu reminded Fang not to miss the mentor's speech at Field 1 and even encouraged him to make a flashy entrance. Because why not leave a mark from day 1? Later that afternoon, Qin was being dragged around by a woman, roped into helping scout the incoming batch for anyone promising. Right as the clock hit 3 p.m., Fang appeared at the last second, casually striding in with his new best buddy Fu by his side. The massive steel gates creaked open as the crowd's chatter died down. A sharp-looking man stepped forward and announced in a chilling tone that anyone late would lose half their entry credits. Credits worth tens of thousands of martial arts points. The crowd winced. Clearly, this place wasn't here to coddle dreams. The principal of Mo Academy addressed the newcomers with the gravity of a war general. He didn't sugarcoat a thing. Joining Mo wasn't their finish line, it was the brutal starting gun of a race through hell. Life here wasn't going to be sunshine and sakura petals. Warriors were forged through fire, and the academy was ready to turn up the heat. As if summoned by his words, the instructors made their entrance from the sky, literally. One after another, they descended like living legends, each unleashing an overwhelming presence that swept through the field like a storm. Students trembled under the sheer pressure. Many fell over. Fang, on the other hand, stood tall and launched into his own explosive intro, soaking in the spotlight like a main character on opening night. Among the crowd, one ratchet-looking instructor eyed him with distaste. She recognized his family name and silently vowed to make his time here as miserable as possible. Right on cue, Fu jumped in, not wanting to be left behind, and the two began pulling off JoJo tier poses like they were auditioning for a modeling gig mid-battle. Their over-the-top display irritated Qin to no end. Then, with a gust of golden energy, the former principal made his dramatic entrance. Every movement screamed elite martial artist. His presence silenced the field as he began one of his famously long-winded speeches. Fu whispered that this had to be A. Frank, the Academy's former head. Frank launched into a nostalgic rant about warriors, history, lost glory, and ancestral pride, all while staring into the sky like he expected the clouds to answer back. No one understood half of what he was saying, but everyone clapped anyway. Suddenly, the current principal dropped a bombshell. Every student was getting a free top-grade Kai and blood pill. The field erupted in cheers, but just as the joy peaked, he dropped another surprise. The freshman training competition would begin in 20 minutes, and anyone who wasn't in the training hall by then might as well kiss their future goodbye. Panic rippled through the crowd. Fang's eyes widened as the reality hit him. Every freshman here was now a rival, including his new buddy, Fu. Once at the training hall, Fang and Fu gawked at the sheer size of it. Their instructor began explaining how only the first 4 of 9 floors were open to freshmen. Each floor tested different abilities. The twist? Whichever floor a student was the last one standing on would decide the college they'd be assigned to. But there was a catch. Only 400 students were allowed per floor. Anyone who entered after that limit would lose over half their credits. It wasn't just a trial, it was a battle royale. As the rules finished, the atmosphere shifted. The instructor added that only wooden weapons were permitted. Before he could even finish the sentence, students bolted toward the entrance like shoppers on Black Friday. Weapons flew off racks, and fights broke out instantly. Chaos had begun. Fang glanced at Fu, gave a quick farewell, and charged forward like a man on a mission. A guy tried to tackle him at the stairs. Fang brushed him aside like lint on a coat. Then came a trio of sweaty, overconfident noobs. Fang barely blinked as he weaved through them with ease. By the time he reached the second floor, he couldn't help but wonder if all that hype about Mo Academy's elite was just smoke. Watching people flail their wooden weapons like they were trying to swat flies, Fang started thinking that maybe Wang had exaggerated how competitive this place really was. While chaos erupted across the training floors, a silver-haired girl on the staircase booted her opponent away like a mosquito buzzing too close. Yet just as he went flying, she caught him mid-air out of sheer reflex. Big mistake. The guy, clearly lacking honor, grabbed the chance to toss her off the staircase. Luckily, her friends caught her at the last second and wasted no time exacting justice on the scumbag, turning him into a floor mop within seconds. Elsewhere, Fu was plowing through a group of 4 like a human bulldozer. His momentum was unstoppable until 2 managed to slow him down, matching him blow for blow. Just as things seemed under control, a chubby fighter latched onto Fu's leg like a starving man clinging to a turkey leg, giving his buddy the perfect chance to land a nasty sucker punch that ended Fu's rampage cold. Meanwhile, Qin was outside the control room, pacing back and forth like a cat on caffeine. But his sneaky little recon mission was cut short when the scary-looking instructor caught him snooping. Thinking fast, Qin claimed he needed the principal's signature, though in reality he was dying to see who'd reach the 4th floor first. Unfortunately, he was already too late. His friend Jail had beaten him to the punch. Right after, the girl squad arrived, visibly unimpressed. They scoffed at how the boys, despite all their tough talk, had turned out to be nothing but weak barkers with no bite. As more students reached the upper floors, Qin couldn't resist mocking the so-called strong duo for running late. Fu managed to KO another random challenger, but the moment Fang arrived, the atmosphere shifted. Fang made a grand entrance and immediately roasted Fu's last opponent, calling him a joke. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he claimed he left Nanjing because his senior hyped it up as a place full of prodigies, yet all he'd seen were amateurs flailing wooden sticks. The crowd froze, jaws dropping at his arrogance. Students started murmuring that this guy had some serious nerve. Then, to really stir the pot, Fang looked straight into the surveillance cameras and declared that Mo Academy students were nothing but garbage. The backlash was immediate. A loudspeaker crackled on and a cold voice announced that anyone who could defeat Fang within 30 minutes would earn 1 credit, and Fang's credits would be wiped clean. Just like that, the hunter became the hunted. Fu was now stuck between a rock and a bro code, but loyalty won out. Without hesitation, he joined Fang, and the duo began dishing out smackdowns left and right, swatting down enemies like mosquitoes at a summer barbecue. But their tag team glory was short-lived. Xianxia, a deceptively dainty pink-haired girl, charged at Fang with explosive strength that didn't match her e-girl looks. Her finishing move hit like a freight train, and Fang barely survived by using another poor soul's face as a human shield. Fu yelled that he needed cover while he processed a stamina pill, but before he could blink, Fang vanished like a magician, leaving his assistant behind. With his partner gone, Fu found himself swallowed by a tidal wave of attackers. Meanwhile, the blue-haired girl, Shumai, was already coordinating the takedown. She ordered Zhao and Xiaoman to target Fang while she and Yangxi dealt with Fu. The rest of the mob would focus on exhausting their stamina, and just like that, the duo was separated. Fang, now surrounded, faced down Shumai's elite squad as she coldly commanded them to break his legs. At the same time, Fu struggled to hold his ground. Out of nowhere, Shumai tanked his strike with her rock-hard forehead, stunning him long enough to knee him in the gut and send him reeling. Inside the control room, the instructors watched everything unfold with intense curiosity. They were baffled by Fang's skills. No background, no family lineage, no known master, yet he was moving like a seasoned warrior. One of them finally connected the dots. Fang was the apprentice of Wang Jingyan, who had once trained under the legendary Zhang, the man who vanished on a mission years ago and never returned. Back in the arena, Fu was nearly done for. A warning echoed in everyone's mind. Losing meant losing half their credits. The crowd swarmed, bloodthirsty. Fang, not wanting to expose his hidden system powers, discreetly popped a health pill that instantly boosted his stats. With a sudden burst of speed, he rocketed into the air. The instructors watching were stunned. No human should be able to absorb a pill that fast. But before they could say more, the timer ran out, and Fang was officially declared the winner. The principal's voice rang out again, telling the freshmen to never forget their humiliation and warning them to show up on time for the mentor selection the next day. Come morning, students swarmed toward Lionhead Tangfang, whose flashy boxing techniques had earned him fanboy status. But Fang wasn't interested in the hype. He checked out the other instructors. None stood out, until he spotted a strange nameplate. That's when it clicked. She was the same ratchet woman from the opening ceremony, the one who clearly had a grudge. As the lady grumbled over ridiculous student requirements, she suddenly called Fang out, telling him bluntly that she was his best shot. The popular mentors were already full, either with seniors that Wang had flattened or juniors Fang had humiliated. In short, the whole university probably wanted him gone. She broke down the truth. Unlike Fu or Zhao Lei, Fang had zero connections, no family support, no safety net. If he wanted to survive, he'd have to walk the same blood-soaked path that senior Wang once did. Fang understood. He asked what made her worth choosing. With a confident smirk, she claimed she could take him places even Lionhead couldn't. Fang handed over his card. Just as he did, Tang Fang chuckled and warned him that over half of her students dropped out before graduation. Before Fang could reconsider, she grinned and instantly registered him. Sumi followed suit and signed up too. Later, Fu strolled up and remembered her name, Lu Fengru. Her reputation? Fierce, ruthless, and tougher than even Lionhead. The next day, Lu gave Fang a one-on-one lesson about cultivating his meridians, especially in his legs, which she said were as flimsy as boiled noodles. She placed 3 pills before him. He popped them all and soon felt his arm bones harden like tempered steel. Hours into focused training, a surge of fire roared through him. He'd broken through. Lu told him to bring Sumi next time so they could begin actual martial techniques. Fang, overjoyed by reaching first rank, asked for his reward pills. Lu instantly shut him down. Vitality and mining pills weren't free candy, and kicked him out of the room. The next day, Lu met with her new students and, without warning, pulled off a Bruce Lee-style kick that echoed across the training ground. She explained that true martial artists focus their tempering into a single strike point and told Fang to give it a shot. Fang, hyped and ready, launched his kick like a beast. The recoil hit back harder. He ended up with a foot so busted he wouldn't be walking straight for days. Lu casually mentioned she might have forgotten to tell him he needed alloy boots for that kind of move. Later, Fang hobbled his way to the logistics department on crutches, dragging his aching limbs down the long corridor. At the front desk, an old geezer was blissfully napping like he had no job in the world. Fang banged the counter and forced him awake, demanding a pair of new boots. The old man squinted at the wounded boy and scoffed, wondering what a half-broken cripple needed shiny kicks for. Once Fang explained that he was just temporarily out of order, the man finally leaned in and whispered like he was offering black market goods. He told Fang that E-rank boots would cost enough credits to empty his soul, and maybe a kidney and a half too. When horror spread across Fang's face, the geezer sweetened the deal. For a special discount, he could get D-rank Yeezys in exchange for both kidneys. A few days later, Fang, Fu, and Suvi headed to the martial arts club for training, but immediately turned around upon seeing others already inside. Just as they were about to bail, a group of senior students called Fang out in that classic bully tone. One of them, a long-haired pretty boy, stepped forward, clearly holding a grudge. He announced that since Fang was connected to Wan, the guy who had stomped his brother into the dirt, it was time to take revenge on the junior. Suvi tried to talk him out of it, warning that he was still injured. But the moment Longhair called Fang a coward, the guy just raised a brow and mocked the dramatic sibling loyalty. He figured they'd keep pestering him anyway, so he accepted the fight. The club's female referee stepped up and the duel began. The senior grumbled that thanks to Wan, he'd spent 3 months in a hospital bed and lost his 3rd rank. Fang rolled his eyes and told him to skip the sob story and start throwing punches. The guy activated a fiery aura and charged like a bull, fists flying inches from Fang's face. Fang landed a kick, but it did little more than tickle. In return, the guy threw a punch that nearly shattered Fang's arms. Before Fang could even catch his breath, fists rained down like a monsoon. Fang began ducking and dodging while begging the kind sir not to bash in his head. He clearly had no idea what he was doing, or so he claimed. The senior, thoroughly annoyed, fired off a roundhouse kick fast enough to blur. Fang was wide open. Then, in his mind, Lu's voice echoed, reminding him to channel the force through his feet. He did, and in that moment, Fang seemed to float midair. He zipped forward in a blink and unleashed a thunderous kick straight to the guy's chest. The senior dropped like a sack of bricks. Longhair began rambling again about his dear brother, but teacher Lu cut in with a verbal slap. She exposed him on the spot, revealing that his brother was nothing more than a third-rate bully who used to scam underclassmen for lunch money. But Longhair wasn't done and threatened to stomp on Fang regardless of his injury, until Wang strolled through the doors and calmly told him to try picking on someone his own size. That evening over dinner, Fang asked Wang why he'd shown up at such perfect timing. Wang brushed it off as a lucky coincidence and gave credit to Senior Qin. That's when Yinan dropped some big news. She told Fang about the upcoming National Freshman Exchange Competition, where 99 martial arts schools would battle it out for top-tier resources. It was time for him to start preparing. The next day, a meeting was held in the conference room, where all the mentors discussed the stakes of the competition. It was being hosted by Mo University itself, and the winning school would score a whopping 20% boost in their yearly resource allocation. Tang Feng announced that this year, to level the playing field, the freshmen would be representing the school. Lu joked that if they were serious about winning, Vice Principal Wu Qixian should just enter the ring himself. Tang quickly shut that idea down, reminding everyone how Wang's constant humiliation of their third-tier students had made the academy a national meme. It was time to restore their pride. He then ordered the 10 new students to reach peak first-tier strength within the month, or they'd be carrying shame on their backs instead of weapons. Training began right away. The fresh recruits were assigned a mission to hunt down elite rebel warriors, each one netting 30 credits. At the end of the mission, everyone walked away with brand new weapons. Fang got handed a spear, which he immediately began swinging around like a flagpole. Just then, Lu appeared and scolded him for cultivating like a caveman. She handed him a scroll instead, a sword technique called Bloodburst Blade developed by Governor Zhang, and ordered him to train with it properly. Time skipped forward. The day of the grand competition finally arrived. The host descended from the sky in dramatic fashion, pulling off a superhero landing before introducing himself as Liu Hurong. He reminded the crowd this wasn't a boy band concert, so no fangirling allowed. Fang's sister was in the crowd too, cheering like she was at an anime expo. To make things worse, that infamous chubby YouTuber Liu Dali had also shown up, pretending as always that he risked his life for exclusive content. The competition kicked off with a bang. One by one, team captains were called to the stage. The host explained the matchmaking system using colorful lottery balls, then introduced the fan-favorite teams. First came the red uniforms from Jingdu Martial Arts School, led by none other than Han Su, the reigning national martial arts champion. Following them were the green and yellow squads from the Martial University Alliance and the 8 School Alliance. Finally, the host gestured toward Mo's blue team and pointed out their captain, Fang, who, in his words, looked like a total rookie no one had heard of. With all captains on stage, the lottery draw began. Tension gripped the arena. The balls spun. When they finally settled, the match was revealed. Mo's blue team would face off against the yellow team in round 2. The showdown began with fiery tension as the red and green team captains squared off in the arena. The names dropped were Hanakshu and Sun, and they skipped the pleasantries. Sun kicked off the match with a bang, unleashing a fierce attack that screamed confidence. But for all that flair, Hanakshu barely broke a sweat. Sun followed up with his flashy forward slash move, thinking it might land this time, but Hanakshu danced around it and retaliated using the elusive void stance. The tempo escalated. Hanakshu fired off his signature Rising Sun combo, a move that usually ends fights. But to everyone's surprise, Sun deflected it like he was swatting away a housefly. Things really hit turbo when Hanakshu activated Ghost Footwork. One moment he was in front of Sun, the next he appeared behind him, landing a brutal strike straight into Sun's chest. Sun winced but refused to go down easy. He latched onto Hanakshu's spear, hoping to drag him into a close quarter finish. Unfortunately for him, Hanakshu twisted the tables once more and flipped Sun to the ground like it was rehearsed. Sun tapped out. Round 1 was over. On the sidelines, Qin leaned over to Wan with a smug grin, predicting that Fang wouldn't even survive his first match. After a brief break, the host returned to the stage with booming excitement, declaring it was time for match 2. Before Fang stepped up, Yuan sprinted to him with tears streaming, begging him not to go. But Fang, calm as ever, simply declared himself a warrior and marched toward the battlefield. By now, news of Fang's fight had exploded across the country. Even his father took leave just to watch. When the host began reading Fang's battle card and saw Lion's Roar as his finishing move, the man froze for a split second. That wasn't some rookie move, it was a technique straight out of Legends. Zhang Guanglin from the yellow team, Fang's opponent, scoffed. He taunted Fang, asking if he even knew how to use the Lion's Roar. Fang waved him off, claiming he was still powering up and didn't want to be disturbed mid-focus. Zhang analyzed Fang's stance and posture, finding one flaw after another, until it dawned on him that everything felt off. Too off. Suddenly, Fang dropped his weapon on purpose, sending Zhang into defensive mode. But before anything happened, Fang casually changed positions just to troll him, making Zhang look like a confused NPC. Furious, Zhang leaped into the air and launched his Thunder Strike, but Fang brushed it off like lint on a jacket, proving it had all been a trap. Then came the twist. Fang split his weapon in two. A hidden phoenix knife emerged from the handle, sending a visible gulp down Zhang's throat. Without wasting time, Fang channeled his energy and executed the Bloodburst Frenzy, his newly learned killer move. It hit dead on. Zhang's weapon shattered, and he went flying out of the ring like a ragdoll. The match was over in a blink, and Fang even helped his opponent up like a gentleman. Just when Zhang's teammate got pumped up, thinking Fang would tag out, the host asked if Fang would continue, and Fang nodded coolly. Back at the yellow team corner, Zhang apologized for messing up, but their captain reassured him. He was proud they'd forced Fang to reveal his trump card and figured there was no way Fang could pull that kind of move again so soon. But then, Fang popped 2 energy pills like breath mints, pretending it was totally normal. Everyone assumed he was bluffing. That is, until the host screamed into the mic that Fang's energy had completely recovered and even surged beyond normal levels in under 20 seconds. Up in the skybox, the Grandmasters began murmuring like gossiping aunties at a wedding. They realized this boy had to be a physical freak of nature to absorb pills that fast. Desperate now, the yellow team captain turned to their second fighter, Chen, and gave him a brutal instruction. Aim low, real low. Hit him where it hurts. Round 2 began before the crowd could settle. Chen charged without even saying hello. At first, it looked like Chen had the upper hand, but in a flash, Fang unleashed a 2-stage kick that struck with such precision, Chen went down like a dropped tower of Jenga blocks. Another win. 2 back-to-back. As the crowd roared, the host turned to Fang and asked if he'd like to tag out. But again, Fang simply nodded to continue. That's when panic crept in on the yellow team. Their captain, Weibin, realized he had messed up royally by underestimating this guy. Without giving Fang a breather, Weibin jumped straight into the ring and launched an all-out blitz. Fang yelped in protest, complaining that he didn't even get to take his pills yet, but the fight was on. And then Fang did the unthinkable. He entered the void standing state, floating midair like a martial arts messiah. Even his own teammates were shook. No one knew when he had trained that. Not even the guests in the VIP seats. Landing softly back to the ground, Fang casually declared that this one would be an easy win. He and Weibin clashed in a blinding spiral of motion that made the arena look like a spinning top stadium. It was chaos, spectacular chaos, but it got even better. Weibin powered up, activating a move that ripped his shirt clean off. His shredded physique had the crowd collectively swooning. Fang tried to interrupt his transformation, but the man didn't even flinch. Weibin locked him up again and the fight reached god-tier levels. Fang turned into a bluish phoenix, while Weibin roared out his transformation into a warring spirit lion. Each hit drained them like battery percentages in a horror game. Meanwhile, Weibin's sister was glued to the TV, biting her nails off while cheering him on. The final exchange was one for the books, a head-on, energy-packed punch collision. Silence filled the stadium. Then, the dust cleared. Fang was the only one still standing. Weibin's HP had dropped to 0. Third win secured. The next day, the match schedule was updated. Jinwu's red team was now set to face Mo's squad. Back in the locker room, Fang casually asked Tang why he wasn't joining the fight. Tang explained that only 5 participants could battle, and since he'd already played all his cards, it was time to let the others take the spotlight. The rest of the crew started mocking the red team, calling them soft, but Tang snapped, reminding them they hadn't even seen what those so-called weaklings could do. The lady instructor backed him up, adding that Mo's team still had tricks to unveil. In the end, Tang passed the choice to Fang, and Fang surprisingly chose to follow the instructor's advice. With the final decision made, only 5 warriors were selected to enter the arena. Fang's sudden absence left his sister, and even the enemy team, in total disbelief. Meanwhile, Fu hyped Shumi up with confident swagger, boasting that he was about to deep-fry Han Shu using his legendary dragon arts. But right before the match began, Fang casually walked in and told his teammate to stay focused and destroy the enemy. No dramatic music, just pure confidence. The first fight kicked off with Sume stepping in to face off against Shuji from Jinwu, a guy with a spotless 6-round winning streak. After a polite bow, Shuji wasted no time lunging at her with a spear so fast it was basically a lightning bolt. Sume tried to block it with her bare arms but ended up airborne, because surprise, the guy had been hiding his real strength all along. Determined not to go down like a side character, Sume stormed back into the fight. Every hit she took added to her injuries, while the enemy captain casually dropped some trivia, explaining that Shuji had stored enough energy to unleash 5 full-powered strikes. Not terrifying at all. Shuji closed the gap with lightning speed and landed a second hit. Her bones sounded like a cracked glow stick, but somehow she shoved him back. But the third strike was brutal. It broke her bones like dry twigs and wiped out over half her health bar. Her absurd resilience started to annoy both Shuji and his captain. The two clashed like a budget version of Naruto vs Sasuke. Sume then finished it with a devastating kick to his precious area. Every man in the audience winced in unison. With that, Shumi, now crowned Queen of Pain, secured victory for round 1. But the victory had a cost. Her injuries would sideline her for 3 months. Fang was furious and started questioning whether playing it safe was even worth it anymore. Fu, on the other hand, was fired up and jumped into the ring next to face off against Han and Shu. As he charged, Shu pulled a ninja move and Ghost stepped behind him, going for a cheap shot. But Fu wasn't born yesterday and spun around with a clean counterblow. Shu retaliated with brute force, blasting Fu across the arena and making him cough up blood like he was allergic to losing. In response, Fu summoned the Lu family's dragon summoning spear technique and hurled it with flair. Shu, acting like it was a Nerf dart, swatted it aside while everyone watched it fly into the crowd like a rogue firework. Then, in classic bait-and-switch style, Fu landed a sneaky punch that knocked out a few of Shu's molars. Unfortunately, Shu wasn't done yet and ended things with a clean counterattack. Fu limped offstage with flair, cracking a joke that had everyone laughing, except his team. Next up was Xiaoman, fired up and entering the ring barehanded. Shu dropped his weapon too, deciding to take her on with pure fists. She threw a punch, he caught it like a pro. She tried a sneaky kick, but it met his rock-hard thighs like a mosquito hitting a tank. Then came her secret weapon, a skull-to-skull headbutt that shook both of them. They traded blows, Jackie Chan style. She threw a wild kick, he stabbed her in the shoulder. But before the crowd could counter out, she leaned in and smashed her forehead into his once again. Her hairline might have taken damage, but her pride didn't. The third fighter from Jinmu entered next to face Zhao Lei. Meanwhile, far from the stadium, Wang and Qin were on the run. Turns out Wang had stolen a massive crystal, hoping to gain enough power to one day save his mentor. Back in the arena, Zhao Lei gave it everything he had, but his opponent casually dodged every strike and knocked him out with embarrassing ease. Without skipping a beat, that same fighter provoked Fang's last teammate into attacking and knocked him into the dirt like swatting a fly. Just like that, Mo's dreams of making it to the finals were crushed. That defeat lit a fire in Fang. Despite their loss, he pulled a sneaky comeback move, forming a triangle formation with Zhaoxu and Xiao Yikai. Somehow, they pulled off a miracle and took down the Wu University Alliance in the elimination round, giving them one last chance at glory. Most of Fang's team looked like they'd just crawled out of a medieval war zone, half dead and lying in beds. That's when the Lionhead made his appearance, delivering a motivational speech that could wake the dead. He told Fang to fire up the squad, and Fang didn't disappoint. As the match between Mowu and Jingwu exploded online, fans argued over which side to cheer for. Mowu's support rating tanked like a crypto coin crash. Before anyone could process it, the first match lineup was revealed. Jin Lei versus Zhang. They both walked into the ring like heavyweight boxers. After the usual intro, Jin Lei charged straight in. Zhang braced for impact, but Jin pulled a wild slide move, dragging his gloves on the floor to slow down before flipping directions and attacking from behind. Speed was clearly his game. Zhang bled, but like every tough anime rival, he powered up just before losing and flipped the match, grabbing the first win for Jinwu. Jin stuck around for round 2, all flashy and full of swagger. That's when xianxia stepped in. She warned him he might want to sit this one out, but Zhang thought she was just some fragile girl. Big mistake. He hit her with a cannon fist that nearly knocked her into retirement. But just as the host was about to call it a miracle, her energy pill kicked in. She rose like a phoenix and stood tall while her opponent collapsed, handing her a win by default. With the score tied, Fang Wenqing stepped into the ring, skipping any pleasantries and throwing fists like a street brawler. Xianxia responded by finally using her real power, a mid-tier technique called the 18-link kicks. Each one landed hard and fast, throwing Fang off rhythm. But right before she could finish him, he grabbed her leg and slammed her to the ground. Then, without wasting time, he activated a hidden technique from the Dongfang family. One look at it and everyone knew this could be the end for her. Just when it seemed like Xianxia was about to be crushed, Fang Ping jumped in at the last second, blocking the final blow and surrendering the round to protect her. With her safe, he turned to face the other Fang and promptly destroyed him, mocking the poor guy for even thinking he could put up a fight in such a sorry state. With the preliminaries out of the way, the stage was finally set for the grand finale, a showdown between the team captains. Hansu stepped forward, diving straight into a fierce, no-holds-barred brawl. Fang triggered his blood-burst frenzy again, but Han had a surprise of his own, stopping the move midair and flipping the momentum in an instant. As Han started dominating the fight, the commentator began running his mouth. That didn't last long, though. Fang shut him up mid-commentary without even breaking rhythm, making it clear he wasn't the one being outclassed. He split his weapon again and went in hard, but Han read the move like a book and countered with a precise hit that left Fang wounded. Fang played it cool, pretending to pop some pills while sneakily using his system to recover energy. Meanwhile, somewhere in a hospital room, Senior Wang and Qin lay half-bandaged and swapping jokes about how no pill on Earth could restore that much vitality. They both knew something fishy was up. Back in the arena, Han powered up and unleashed a relentless storm of strikes, eventually slamming Fang into the ground. He lay there motionless, looking like a broken doll. Just when the crowd thought it was game over, a strange green-blue light enveloped Fang as he found himself floating above the system statue. Deep in thought, he racked his brain for a way to flip the fight. And then, boom, he bounced back, fully recovered. To the audience, it looked like he had popped a mythical, life-restoring pill. Han warned him that the old frenzy trick wouldn't cut it anymore. But Fang didn't need the old tricks. He launched a new move called Tiger Breaks the Army, chaining it into a brutal series of follow-ups that finally overwhelmed Han, snatching the victory right out from under him. With that, the grueling 3-day tournament came to a dramatic end, Fang's team taking home the win and a truckload of prizes. The announcer hyped up a rematch coming after the New Year holidays. That battle taught Fang a valuable lesson. No more underestimating his opponents. So, instead of relying on his system, he got back to the grind, training nonstop. Later that day, Fang strolled home with his sister and the dorm crew. They chatted and joked, all agreeing they'd have to step up their game just to keep up with him. On the way, Fang cornered the chubby scam artist who'd promised exclusive coverage but never delivered, demanding a cut of his profits. The guy practically cried and bolted in terror. At that moment, a few others caught up with them. One buddy showed off his healed body, ready for round 2. Then, Woxe Elman casually declared that anyone who didn't hit 2nd rank by the start of the new term was officially gay, earning a very suspicious glance in Youngzi's direction. With laughs and banter, they all said their goodbyes and Fang boarded the train. On the ride, his sister looked surprised that Fang only placed 6th in the rankings, but Fang smirked and dropped the real bomb. He'd snuck into the control room and found out he was actually ranked 2nd. His classmates lost their minds. He told them to keep it under wraps for now. One classmate teased that he was catching up to Wang, but Fang fired back that Wang was already charging toward 4th rank. Just like that, the competitive fire inside him reignited. As he walked home, the festive lights and peaceful streets filled him with a warm feeling. Some kids even asked for his autograph, which he happily gave. The day ended with a tear-jerking reunion with his parents. The next morning, Fang went out for some fresh air when the agent who'd arrested Huang Bin casually approached him. With a grin, the guy revealed that for taking down Huang and dominating the martial arts contest, the city had decided to gift Fang his very own studio apartment in the rich district where his sister studied. The news left Fang speechless. He immediately called Wang to ask why he hadn't claimed a share of the reward. But Wang, being the chill senior that he was, said he didn't need it. He even encouraged Fang to use the place for training without disturbing the fam. Fang offered to buy him dinner in thanks, but Wang was swamped with work and promised they'd hang out later. Soon after, Fang moved into the fancy Xianxia class apartment with his family. They settled in, filling the space with warmth and chill vibes as the New Year holidays rolled by. After the break, Fang dropped the news that he'd officially hit 2nd rank. The whole crew was floored. Then, just as things were settling, an old friend called and invited him to Nan Wu. Since it had been a while since Fang saw Wang, he accepted the invite. Few asked what it was about, and Fang said they could all tag along, instantly turning it into a squad trip. Upon arrival, the crew was blown away by how pristine and elegant Nan Wu looked. The peaceful setting even got the girls talking about how calming it felt. But peace never lasted long in their world. Suddenly, a loudmouth punk barged in, cursing and trying to start drama. Moments later, Wei walked in, cool as ever, and welcomed Fang and the crew to Nanjing Wu University. He casually asked if Fang had already peaked at the 2nd level, then dropped a cheeky suggestion. He wanted Fang to wreck the Nan Wu students just like he did to Mo Wu during his last visit. Wang chimed in, saying the students had grown too soft and needed a wake-up call. To that end, he proposed a mock 2nd-tier match between the squads. Fang tried to decline, but his teammates were already fired up. Wang sealed the deal by offering some juicy pill rewards, and Fang finally gave in. To prepare, Fang called his lion-faced master, Tang, and sweet-talked him into sending around 50 2nd-tier pills. Tang exploded with rage at the insane request, but eventually agreed to send a small batch. 1st-tier pills and 5 precious 2nd-tier ones. Meanwhile, Wang approached the Nan Wu principal with a bold suggestion. Expel 90% of the underperforming students if they lost to the newly promoted Mo Wu 2nd tiers. His argument? Focus resources on training true elites rather than wasting effort on slackers. The suggestion caused chaos, but shockingly, the principal agreed without much resistance. Wang then announced the rules. Winner stays, loser leaves, and the last one standing takes the crown. With the atmosphere thick with anticipation, the showdown kicked off. Nan Wu's 3rd-year student Chen Pengfei entered the ring first, squaring off against Mo's 1st-year prodigy, Zhao Lei. But what looked like a fair match turned into a one-sided display, as Zhao Lei effortlessly crushed him without breaking a sweat. He then stepped aside, casually passing the torch to Fang, who had promised Senior Wang he'd take the spotlight. As Fang strolled into the arena, whispers swept across the Nan Wu stands like wildfire. The students buzzed with disbelief, struggling to understand how this guy leveled up so fast. His opponent? A girl named Liddy Lanka, Fang, never one to pass up a good jab, immediately teased her about how her name sounded like rotten vegetable leaves. That hit a nerve. Furious, she charged at him, but Fang danced around her attacks with ease, treating the fight like a warm-up. When she mocked him for retreating like a coward, he reversed the momentum in a flash and knocked her clean off the stage, forcing her to flee and surrender without another word. Next came a gray-haired student trying to make an impression. Before he could even introduce himself, Fang shut him down cold, declaring he didn't bother remembering weaklings. That match ended quicker than a sneeze. But then a new challenger stepped up, this one surrounded by blazing red flames. Fang acknowledged him as a proper threat and ditched his weapon, choosing to go barehanded. Every punch from Fang left his fists bloodied, yet the fiery opponent stood firm, barely flinching under the barrage. For once, the battle stretched out, with Fang quickly realizing that his usual playstyle wouldn't cut it. Things got tight when the opponent used a fiery horse technique to pin Fang down, cornering him with zero room to breathe. Fang took the hit head-on and was sent flying like a ragdoll, hitting the ground hard. But he still got up. Staggering and wild-eyed, he charged again, only to take a gut punch that folded him in half. Desperate, he unleashed everything he had in a frenzied onslaught. Blow after blow, they clashed, until one final punch from both sides made the crowd collectively wince. Running low on energy, Fang resorted to primal tactics. He headbutted his opponent over and over, finishing the guy off like an unhinged street brawler. Then, breathing heavily and covered in sweat, he roared at the audience, daring the next piece of trash to step up. That's when Wei intervened, declaring that Fang had done more than enough. He turned to the silent crowd and called them out for their cowardice, telling them to reclaim their honor by crushing the lowest of the low. Just like Wang had planned, that speech ignited a fire in the students. The next day, Fang walked into the training center where teacher Lu had summoned him. Inside, he witnessed Qin brutally body two guys. One was smacked into the ground like a bug, while the other got launched into the ceiling like a fastball. An NPC around Fang's level dared to challenge Qin next, but Qin, now flexing third-rank power, shrugged off kicks to the crotch like they were tickles. After showing off, Qin noticed Fang and offered him as a substitute opponent, but Lu responded by punching Qin into a wall for destroying school property. She then told Fang to follow her, leaving the half-conscious Qin behind. As they walked, she explained how the training center was built for breakthroughs. In the waiting room, she broke down what it meant to reach third rank. Titanium bones, insane strength, and practically indestructible bodies, except for their brains. For Fang to get there, he'd need to refine every inch of his body. At the counter, a grumpy admin scammed Fang out of all his points without giving him a chance to negotiate. Still, Fang entered the training room and sat down, laser-focused. His vitality points dropped like crazy, and a monstrous aura surged around him. His eyes glowed with power, and Lu, watching from a distance, began to realize this kid might actually become a master someday. Even Fang was stunned when his meridian snapped into place, signaling a sudden breakthrough. He called out for some good pills to celebrate, but Lu just told him to keep dreaming. Meanwhile, back at the academy, the Golden Geezer started to worry. Bai and the other elites hadn't returned from their secret mission in the underground, and time was running out. The principal, frowning, quietly deployed all available second-rank fighters, starting to suspect humanity's peace was on the verge of collapse. Later, as Fang headed to his first underground class, xianxia ran up to him asking if he'd seen her teacher, Bai. Just then, someone announced that the survivors had arrived at the south gate. Two trucks rolled in slowly. The nurses began unloading them, each body lifeless, each moment silent. xianxia finally spotted her mentor and smiled, until she realized the woman's left arm was missing. Only a blood-soaked shirt remained. A few seconds later, the Golden Geezer and several other high rankers floated down. Though his expression was somber, he tried to lift the mood, saying just making it back alive was already a win. Bai turned to Lu and handed over her students' training, making xianxia tear up. She asked if her teacher had abandoned her, but Liu explained softly that Bai had suffered serious internal injuries and wouldn't recover for at least 2 or 3 years. Then, another warrior stepped off the truck and dropped a bomb. Lanceway's underground forces had rebelled, costing 6 elite meteors their lives. The Golden Geezer immediately ordered proper funerals and promised support for their families. Watching it all unfold, Fang stood there confused. He hadn't expected this underground business to be so dangerous. The whole situation left him wondering what dark secrets were hidden below. As the sun rose, students gathered to honor the fallen heroes. In front of the graves, they raised their elbows in salute, and soon the quiet air was filled with sobs. That day, their new mentor began teaching them everything about the underground caverns. She explained that the first known gateway opened 800 years ago during a catastrophic earthquake in Sichuan, splitting the ground and unleashing havoc. According to the Chronicles of Origin, this accidental breach let powerful underground beings, stronger than even 9th-rank warriors, slip into the surface world. When Fang asked why they couldn't just walk through the gate and end it, she told him the spatial isolation between the two realms would require an insane cost to break. However, research now suggested the barrier had been weakening ever since the first portal opened. She went on to say there were currently 22 such gateways, all unconnected and full of rare resources, while also revealing a grim truth. The creatures below outnumbered humanity by far. After class wrapped up, Fang once again approached Master Lu, politely urging her to accept xianxia as her new disciple. Lu gave a long pause, clearly weighing the request, but finally nodded, agreeing to give the girl a chance. She then turned to Bai and gently asked her to step away due to her worsening health. As Bai walked off slowly, Lu's expression hardened as she looked back at xianxia and bluntly called her a waste of resources. Fang didn't hesitate to defend her, but Liu spun the conversation onto him instead. She raised a brow and questioned why he'd only tempered 6 coins so far. Without missing a beat, Fang squeezed out some top-tier crocodile tears and whined that his family was too ancient and frail, so he had to hoard coins to survive. Somehow, this excuse worked. Liu softened and offered him some much-needed resources along with a mysterious scroll. She instructed him to wait at the entrance of the southern district and hand the scroll to a white-haired old man who would be emerging from the underground, and just before sending him off, she told him to pass on a message. Her daughter still loved the man and he should stay by her side. Now feeling richer than a lottery winner, Fang sprinted straight to the school shopkeeper and proudly bragged about his newfound wealth, over 1,000 credits. He demanded a 3rd-grade vitality pill, top shelf only. The shopkeeper raised an eyebrow and instantly guessed Lu must have been the one behind this sudden flood of points. Curious, he asked what Fang had done to earn them. In response, Fang smugly handed over the scroll, but the moment the old man peeked at the contents, his face darkened. He muttered that the person mentioned wasn't just his mentor, but also his sworn enemy. Apparently, this mysterious figure was the lord of the 9th-grade realm from the Modu Cave. Fang stood frozen, his smug expression melting into dread. He realized too late, he'd just walked into a trap. That night, Fang crouched in the bushes with his crew, waiting near the underground entrance. As soon as they noticed movement, Fang assumed this had to be the guy Liu mentioned, maybe even her father. When a long, white-haired man finally appeared, Fang boldly stepped forward, handed over the letter, and repeated that Liu missed him. The old man looked him dead in the eyes, asked for confirmation, then, without any warning, flicked Fang through the air like a paper airplane and vanished. Everyone just stood there, speechless, trying to process what just happened. The next day, Fu explained the full story. The man Fang had boldly delivered that scroll to was none other than the Snake King Wu Xian, ranked 47th in the martial world and vice principal of Mo Academy. And, plot twist, he wasn't Liu's dad, he was her husband. They even had a daughter together. According to Fu's father, the Snake King once dragged his daughter into a dangerous underground mission, where she tragically died, and he could do nothing but watch. Later on, while Fang was training, both his mentor and Wuxian showed up at the shopkeeper's place. The Snake King narrowed his eyes as he saw Fang manipulating mental energy to gather energy particles, something only 6th-tier warriors could normally pull off. Yet here was Fang, a mere 3rd tier, casually pulling it off like he was collecting apples. Both mentors immediately realized they weren't dealing with just another student. Fang was a rare, mutated warrior. Once Fang finished, he excitedly announced he'd reached the peak of the 3rd tier. His mentor, clearly impressed, approved and told him to return later for advanced technique lessons. Soon after, the big day arrived. All the students gathered, geared up, and ready to descend into the underground world. Their mentors and the Golden Geezer came to see them off, throwing in a few last-minute pep talks about bravery, duty, and survival. The mood was a mix of excitement and nerves. As the young warriors departed, the elders silently prayed they'd all return in one piece. After reaching the staging area, Tang Feng instructed everyone to pack their essentials. The squads then marched toward the military checkpoint, where he flashed his permit to a soldier who looked just as battle-hardened as him. With clearance granted, the group stepped into the underground mission hall, a buzzing hub filled with warriors trading loot for survival gear. Next stop was the massive alloy gate that separated the base from the underground, a last line of defense against invasion. A ragged soldier who looked like Jack Sparrow in a military outfit granted them access and warned Fang not to get himself unalived. Tang explained that the gate only let one person through at a time. They entered a room where stairs led to a glowing red vortex. Fang, always the clown, shoved his arm into the portal and faked a scream like it had been ripped off. Salmon was not amused. With fury burning in her eyes, she drop-kicked him straight into the dimensional rift like she was channeling Chuck Norris. As Fang floated inside the vortex, he noticed the energy particles swirling around and seriously considered absorbing them all. Tang's voice immediately barked through the space, warning him to chill out unless he wanted to collapse the entire dimension. He explained that the gateway was becoming increasingly unstable, and if Earth connected directly to the underground, it could be the end of humanity. If that happened, no one inside would make it back, not even their bodies. With heavy thoughts in mind, they moved forward. Inside the underground, Tang introduced them to General Xu, a 6th-rank powerhouse and leader of this zone. Xu led them onward until they arrived at a barely standing place called Hope City, a makeshift base for underground survival. Xiu explained that Taiman City launched regular military assaults against Hope City, keeping them on the defensive year after year. But this time, things were about to change. Hope City was preparing to strike back. Their plan? Deploy scattered squads of warriors to hunt down enemy outposts surrounding the area. The general made it crystal clear. This wasn't a training exercise, it was war. Their first task was to scout, obey every command, and survive. As the group ventured into the wilderness, Tang dropped the niceties. He bluntly declared he was taking the third rankers deeper into enemy territory himself. The rest? They'd have to figure things out alone. Fang protested, arguing it was too risky for rookies. Tang didn't care. He snapped back that if Fang was so worried, he should go out alone and prove his worth instead of showing off in front of weaker students. Fang pushed back, saying this was his first time down here. Tang cut him off with a brutal jab. If he was third rank and still scared, he had no business acting superior. He reminded Fang that his mentor, Wang, had been taking on fourth rank monsters at the same stage. Tang called him a waste of talent, a disappointment, and said he had no intention of recognizing Fang until he showed what he was really made of. He reminded him, a warrior's purpose is to serve humanity. Fang's eyes lit with resolve. He swore he wasn't afraid to die if it meant fulfilling his duty. Tang simply raised a brow, told him to prove it, and marched off with the rest of the team, leaving Fang standing alone with something to prove. Later on, as the group moved cautiously under the guide's instructions, Nungzi suddenly realized something, or more accurately, someone, was missing. She glanced around and pointed out that Fang hadn't been seen for a while. The others paused. Then it clicked. Fang Ping had gone AWOL again. Meanwhile, on his unintended solo side quest, Fang was navigating unfamiliar terrain when a cave dweller suddenly leaped from the bushes with the grace of a budget Assassin's Creed NPC. Fang barely managed to draw his weapon before the creature retreated into the tall grass like a shy Pokemon. Staying alert, Fang tuned into the smallest shifts in the air and fired off an energy blast that vaporized the creature in one clean shot. As he approached the corpse, he noticed how oddly human it looked. A glance at its dog tag confirmed it. It was from Taiman City. Without skipping a beat, Fang yanked an energy stone from the body and started backing off. That's when trouble walked in. 3 warriors emerged from the shadows, clearly investigating the commotion. One of them tilted his head just slightly toward Fang's direction. That single movement said it all. They'd spotted him. Without waiting for a friendly hello, the trio drew their weapons and charged. Fang's first attack got slapped aside like a wet towel, so he did what any sensible person would do. He turned and bolted, bouncing through the trees like a caffeinated squirrel. Despite a few flashy mid-air strikes, none of his attacks hit. Realizing his punches weren't landing, Fang poured energy into his legs, trading brute force for maximum speed. Back at camp, the dean and others were already getting nervous about Fang's absence, dreading the kind of mess he could be caught up in. Back in the wild, Fang managed to shake off his pursuers, barely. He leaned against a tree to catch his breath when the universe decided it wasn't done messing with him. Standing directly in his path was a massive creature, part fox, part leopard, and fully terrifying. Its golden fur glimmered under the faint light, and it was none other than the king of cunning, Lin. Before Fang could even blink, the 3 warriors reappeared and tried a desperate ambush from above. But the moment they spotted Lin, they did a full 180. Unfortunately for them, they didn't get far. The cunning beast drained their energy in seconds, then slowly turned its predatory gaze on Fang. Just as Fang was preparing a heartfelt goodbye to life, the beast merely sniffed him. That's when Fang realized the scent of the green energy stone must have caught its attention. In pure survival instinct, he yeeted the stone as far as he could. The fox swallowed it whole. Victory? Not quite. As soon as Fang started celebrating in his head, the fox turned back and began draining his energy anyway, much faster this time. Elsewhere, the dean was scouring the forest with increasing dread. He prayed Fang hadn't wandered into Lin's lair. That creature, dangerously close to breaking into the 8th tier, was a nightmare waiting to happen. Then, out of nowhere, the fox just stopped. It yawned, strolled back to its favorite napping spot, and plopped down like nothing had happened. Fang, now completely out of energy and down 14 million martial art points, sprinted out of the danger zone, but not without first promising the beast that he'd return with tastier meals next time. Just as he burst from the territory, he came face to face with 4 more warriors. No time to chat. Fang turned right back around and lured them straight into the fox's turf. Once again, Lin devoured them like appetizers, and Fang made another wild escape. Later, Fang stumbled upon a new group of warriors. These guys looked different. The totem they carried triggered something in Fang's memory. He suspected they might be plotting an attack on Hope City. With urgency kicking in, he decided to head back and raise the alarm, but to do that, he had to pass through Lin's territory one more time. When he returned, he found the beast still lounging, having finished off his latest batch of snacks. With no other option, Fang stood there and let the fox start draining his energy again. While looking around, he noticed a gauntlet near one of the fallen soldiers. He held it up and politely asked the king if he could keep it, to bring him even more delicious prey later. To his surprise, the gauntlet added a whopping 6 million points to his system. That's when the light bulb moment struck. Maybe collecting these items could level him up even faster. With a mental nod from Lin, Fang dashed off again, effectively turning the terrifying fox into his own personal XP farm. Back at base, his mentor Lu arrived and immediately noticed that her star pupil was nowhere to be found. Just as she was about to lose her mind, Tang stepped in and reminded her that the current crisis with Taiman City was the bigger priority. But before the argument could really explode, someone shouted, and everyone turned to see Fang sprinting toward them at full speed, screaming for help like his pants were on fire. Without hesitation, Tang launched into action, intercepting the pursuing 5th-tier warriors. The enemy leader, realizing he was outclassed, used his own men as bait and tried to run. Tang wasn't having it. He caught up to the guy, gave him a proper beatdown, and let him limp away with more cracks than a shattered vase. Moments later, Fang Ping strolled in with a heroic grin, holding a bundle of Cavern Warrior medals. He proudly announced that not only did he survive, he'd even taken down a peak 5th-tier warrior. Lu was about to go full rage mode on the dean for sending her student on such a risky mission. But when she saw Fang standing there in one piece, even she couldn't suppress a smile. As if on cue, the nearby army soldiers began chanting Fang's name like he was already a legend. And just like that, the wild card of the team had suddenly become their rising star. Later that day, while Fang Ping was getting patched up like a broken action figure, Teacher Lu tore into him for risking his neck like some battle-hungry idiot. But Fang, master of subject changing, smoothly shifted the conversation to what he'd seen during his narrow escape. He mentioned something that made everyone freeze, a gut feeling that Fate City might be heading straight for disaster. The moment the higher-ups caught wind of this, they didn't hesitate. They bolted out the door to prep defenses like a fire drill on steroids. Soon after, soldiers gathered from across the base while the instructors huddled together in deep concern. They admitted they were severely outnumbered, and this time the old principal wouldn't be stepping in to save the day. His golden body, once near invincible, was now hanging by a thread, and using it could easily cost him his life. Back in the infirmary, Sumi broke the news to Fang. War had been declared against the underground army. A heavy mood settled over the room, until Fu jumped in with a grin, calling it the perfect opportunity to level up like never before. That fiery remark jolted the others out of their gloom and sent morale soaring, but Liu quickly ordered Fu to stand down, pointing out his injuries. Fu clapped back, accusing Liu of hogging all the glory like some spotlight-thirsty influencer. Fang, however, refused to stay on the sidelines. He admitted he was terrified of dying, but watching his friends fall was even worse. If it came to it, he'd take down 2 entire cities solo. That speech earned a pause right before Liu gave him a dose of reality. The battlefield was crawling with abyss-born monsters ranked 8th and 9th. This wasn't a game. Still, Fang asked young Si for a handful of rejuvenation pills and downed them like candy. While checking out his half-dead weapon, Fang got a surprise visit from the captain, who tossed him a B-rank crescent blade, reclaimed from one of the enemies Fang had personally wrecked. With upgraded gear in hand, everyone started arming up just as reinforcements began arriving through the portal. At the same time, Fang realized something grim. His body had taken too much damage to ever fully heal. His only hope now was to shoot for the 8th rank golden body, like the principal had once done. That thought lit a fire inside him. He locked eyes with his next goal, catching up to Senior Wang after the breakthrough. Later in the meeting room, Kim wasted no time boasting about being one of the 2 third rankers summoned for backup. The battle briefing began with Tang explaining the target. Xiao Lei tried to volunteer, but the big guy immediately shut him down. His strength, while impressive, meant nothing here. This wasn't a sparring match. It was war, and they'd have to follow orders like clockwork. As the soldiers wheeled in 2 massive trunks filled with energy recovery stones, a war horn suddenly blasted through the air. The time for talk was over. On the battlefield, cave warriors had already spread out, lying in wait like bugs before a rainstorm. The general gave the command. It was time for humanity to strike back. Everyone cracked open their energy stones like glow sticks at a rave, and the mid-air chaos exploded instantly. The sky lit up as fighters clashed mid-flight. Creepy, contorted cavemen began climbing walls like demonic Spider-Men. That's when Xiaowen and Zhaolei dove into the fray, flexing every bit of their training. Simultaneously, Xianxia and her mentor Bai fought side by side like they were born to sink, while Fang and Fu proved they weren't just background characters anymore, they were a main event duo. The 2 stood back to back, shredding through the swarm with surgical precision, until an enemy 4th rank suddenly ambushed them. Before things got ugly, Qin stepped in with his usual smirk, telling the overgrown goon to pick a proper fight. The enemy obliged and got serious, but Qin had tricks. He casually flung his sword into the sky, punched the caveman so hard it forgot its childhood, and watched as the enemy landed perfectly on the falling blade, getting skewered like meat on a stick. Meanwhile, the soldiers fired up the ballistas, launching massive bolts that wiped out low-tier enemies and decimated enemy supply lines. The instructors rampaged through the middle ranks like wrecking balls, pushing the opposing general over the edge. Enraged, he charged straight at Wu. Now things got shaky. The top fighters were starting to buckle under the pressure, clearly outmatched by stronger foes. As the command team scrambled for options, someone suggested using the energy cannon, but the idea was shot down immediately. A single blast would cost millions in resources, and using it now could spell financial ruin. Hope City was standing on the edge of collapse. That's when Fang spotted the enemy general mercilessly overpowering Wu, and one by one, humanity's elites started dropping. Fang made a move to join the fight, but Qin held him back, saying at their current level they'd be nothing more than cannon fodder. Just then, a deadly blast targeted Teacher Lu, but at the last possible second, she was saved by an unexpected strike from a mystery group. It turned out to be none other than the former principal and his band of buff, ancient badasses. Seconds later, Hanok Su and the tournament crew also arrived, swaggering into battle like they'd never left. With no time for greetings, the seasoned veterans stormed in, eager to throw hands. The students, fired up by the reinforcements, charged into the melee with new energy. The principal, always the drama king, snapped off his own arm like it was a bottle cap and hurled insults about the enemy general's mother, claiming she looked like a troll in daylight. Enraged, the Beastman sprouted another arm and responded by chopping off the old man's glorious braids. Then, he launched a barrage of energy blasts across the field, taking out more soldiers and forcing the principal to rethink his strategy. The battle had dragged on too long, and every passing second meant more deaths. Refusing to let the next generation fall, the old man powered up, entering Ultra Instinct mode. His golden aura burned brighter than ever as he clashed head-to-head with the enemy general. The Beastman soared into the sky, preparing to drop his final, devastating attack. But the principal didn't flinch. He declared he hadn't cultivated his golden body just to die a background character. Then, with everything he had left, he charged forward and unleashed his final technique. The resulting explosion ripped through the enemy forces, eliminating nearly half their army in a single glorious blaze. The cave warriors, stunned and shaken, began to retreat, and as the dust settled, the battlefield fell eerily quiet. Everyone stood frozen, realizing the legendary old man had given everything. This would be the last time they'd ever see him. And that's where the series ends. But before ending this, shout out to Mr. P. Polito for always showing up first like a true MVP. And if you're hyped as I am, hit that subscribe and ring the bell. Let me know your wildest theories down below and brace yourself. Next time's gonna be absolute chaos.